Okay, so this isn't super new. This was released last week, but I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to have less screen time, less input, trying to create more than I consume. You know, all the good things that everyone on the internet tells you should do for better health and mental health. And yeah, it's cool, but I missed this morning. It's Friday morning. I got up and I decided, you know what? I want to watch something on YouTube. I want to take in something that's going to bring me joy for the rest of my day. And this is the first thing that popped up in my home feed. Why Anyone Has to Go. This is a new John Mayer song he played live at a concert last week, and somebody recorded it on their phone, and now it's on the internet. Man, that's good. I thought I messed this coffee up. I ballooned it for like 4 minutes when it was supposed to be 30 seconds or a minute because I was outside with the dog, and I thought it was going to be total garbage. It's one of the best coffees I've had in a long time, so hopefully that's a sign for the day. Now, this is a seemingly simple song. It's really, at its root, just 4 chords. Technically, we have kind of like an A minor situation going on, to a D minor, to a G, to a C. At the very base of it, that's it. And then the second time around, A minor to D minor, and then F to C. But he does some cool things in there. We get some slash chords that we don't see as often in today's music. They were more common back. I hear them most in like Motown and soul music. Really cool chords. And John is a master of the guitar, so obviously he's doing some cool little things to connect the chords, using all the techniques that we're all always trying to learn. Cage system, scales, chord tones, triads, all those things are coming into play here to make these 4 or I guess 5 chords sound really good. And I want to break it down for you. Now the song is repetitive. It's just the same chords over and over. So we're just going to focus in on the first 4 bars, the intro of the song, because that's where I think most of the kind of cool guitar work happens. It illustrates everything I want to talk about today. And I think there's tons you guys can learn just from 4 bars of music. Anyways, enough rambling. Let's check it out, and then we'll break it down.
Okay, that's good feedback for me. You already went on. That's all right.
Oh man, that chord right there. That's my favorite thing out of this whole entire thing is this chord. And then leading back into the 1 chord of the C. So first off, I think he's probably playing minor 7 chords. It looks to me like he's playing this chord right here, which is an A minor 7. It's essentially just this. If you already know an A minor bar chord like this, in order to turn it into a 7, all you gotta do is just drop your pinky. That makes it an A minor 7. Now, John does that classic thing where he's constantly wrapping his thumb around the neck because he has giant hands. And just like that, where we've got our thumb on the 5th fret, and then we're making the rest of the chord kind of as we normally would. So we start off on that A minor 7, and then we move to a D minor 7, and if you're not familiar with that, but you already know how to play this A minor shaped D minor bar chord, literally all you have to do is you remove your pinky, just like this. So your first 2 chords, A minor 7, D minor 7, and then he does some kind of like little arpeggio thing within the chord, maybe like that. And then he moves down to a G chord, again in true John Mayer fashion, with his thumb here. We don't have to do that. If it's more comfortable, you can play a normal E-shaped G bar chord just like this. But if you want to do the thumb version, all it is, think about it like this. Think about your F chord from back here, slide it up 2 frets, turns it into a G, and then just drop your thumb over it. When we put those 3 chords together, you get A minor 7 to D minor 7 to the G. Now, when he goes to the C is where it gets interesting. This would be the most logical place to go, and for a lot of the song, this is the C chord he uses. If you're familiar with your bar chords and the cage system, what that is, that's an A-shaped C chord, because if you see this little bar here, that's basically our A chord, however you may happen to play it, moved up, and then the root note with our index finger here is a C, making it our C chord. Now, if you didn't know, in our cage system, our A chord shape, which we're playing here, and our G shape are actually connected by this bar. It's a really cool little trick. So think about a G chord for a second. I'm going to play it like this. Think about where the nut is, okay? So here's my root note, and then back 1, 2, I guess technically like 3 frets is where the nut would be. If I want to turn that into a bar chord, and I'm going to go ahead and make it right into a C chord, my C note's here. Now, that's not a very practical chord to play, but here's a C in an A shape, and then here's a C in a G shape. And what he does, he's using this shape here, and instead of having the C in the bass, what he's doing, he's using this note in the bass, okay? That's an E, and in the case of our C chord, C, D, E, it's our third. What he's actually doing, to go one step further, is hammering on just like this. So you wind up with this in the beginning. It's really cool, and it sounds a little bit different than normal C. And there's our C with our E in the bass. It just sounds a little different, especially with that hammer on, right? It has a lot more character to it. And then we go one step further. He plays this really, really cool lick to take us back into our A minor. And all he's doing there, he's really connecting those two shapes we talked about. He's connecting our G shape down to our A shape, and then walking back up chromatically from G to A to get back to the first chord of the song, or the A minor. Now the lick looks like this. So you're going to do that original hammer on we talked about to the E note to make that a C/E. You're going to take your ring finger, you're going to drop it down one, hammer it on here, take it off and play the D and G string, and then you're going to slide your ring finger from 7 to 5 on the A, and then walk up G, G sharp, back to your A minor 7. Now, even without going further to the really cool chord later, that slash chord that I think really, really makes this song, just the information, taking our A shape and our G shape and being able to connect them like this is really cool. That means anytime we're playing an A shape anywhere, let's just say I'm playing a D chord, okay? So I'm gonna put it here. If I wanna connect this to its G shape, I'm using this as my connector. So it goes from here in our A shape to here in our G shape. And again, we don't always have to use all the strings. So we could just do something like, or if I'm already here, anything like that. Moving into the second half, the first two chords are the same. We get A minor 7 to D minor 7, and then we get my favorite chord right here. We get this. And I don't know about you, but that just sounds like Motown to me, okay? This is an F/G chord. And just listen how colorful that is. And then it leads us right back into, and it's like your ear just wants to hear that C chord after you hear this. It's such a classy sound. I actually think the first time I ever heard this was probably in a Stevie Wonder song, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, where you get that like, ooh baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. Pardon my singing, but that chord right there, and it just gets me. And it's actually being used in the same context here. So let's break down the chord first, and then we'll talk about kind of how and why and all that stuff. So it's called F/G, and it does come from an F chord. Actually, think about that first F chord we learned, probably most of our first bar chords like this, where we've got 3rd fret D, 2nd fret G, and then 1st fret barring on the B and the E string. Now, in order to get to the F/G chord, all you have to do, you're going to remove your 3rd finger from the D string, you're going to bring it over and place it on the 3rd fret of the low E, and then you're going to replace that with your pinky. So your pinky is going to go 3rd fret D string. Now what's really important, we definitely don't want to hear this A string because it's going to sound really clashy. If we happen to leave that A string open, you're going to get like, sounds bad, right? So all you got to do, you're just going to dip your ring finger over and you're going to mute that A string, and you get this really pretty chord. Now from there, he just ends back on a normal C chord and then continues the riff over and over. So the whole thing in its entirety sounds like this. And then it's just going to keep going over and over. If you came here just to learn how to do that, you're probably done now, but I think I'd be a pretty crappy teacher if I didn't talk a little bit more about how we can take this chord and use it in other situations, because it's really pretty. I think it's really underused these days, and I think we could all benefit from having a little bit of a better chord vocabulary. In order to understand it best, I think we really need to understand the chords and how they function in the key that we're in. Now, you could argue that we're either in the key of A minor or the key of C, and really they're the same thing. Okay, we start off on this A minor, we move to the D minor, and then we always end up back on that C chord To me, that sounds like home bass. Even though it has a bit of a dark tonality and we start off on the A minor, it does come back to that C. When we end on that C, to me, it feels complete. Now, they are really the same thing, okay? A minor and C minor are relative to each other, which means they share the same notes or the same scale, and they share the same chords. When I think about this, I'm always referring back to the major key so I can think about it in terms of numbers. So for instance, if we're in the key of C, okay, so this could have been A minor or C, we're gonna call it C. That means C becomes 1 and all of our other chords move in relation to that. So if C is 1, D minor is 2, E minor is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A minor is 6. We're not going to worry about the diminished 7th chord, and then we wind up back on C for 1 or 8. So if I think about the chords we're playing in terms of their numbers in relation to C, we start off in A minor, that's our 6 minor. So we have a 6 minor to a D minor, C, D, that's our 2 minor. Then we have a G, which is our 5, and C is our 1. Then this is where it gets really cool. So I have my 6 minor again, to my 2 minor, D minor. Now I have this F / G. What that is, F is 4, because we get C, D, E. I have a pick in my hand, I can't really do this. F. And then we're putting the 5 in the bass, okay? So we're going F / G. I think about that as 4 / 5. And then here's what's really cool. This chord here really pulls you back to this. Okay, the best time you can use this 4 / 5 chord is to get us back to the 1 or the home bass of the key. It's got such a cool pull. What if I want to use this in a different key? Okay, so we had F / G or 4 / 5, we're going to refer to it as, back to my C or my 1. So the move we want is 4 / 5 to 1. That's that really cool, really neat sound. So let's say I'm in the key of G. G is my 1. I need to know what my 4 and my 5 are. G, A, B. C is my 4, which means D is my 5. So how do I take this chord and turn that into a C / D? I got a couple options. I can take this exact same shape and move it so I had an F. I need to turn that into a C. Now I'm looking at my root note as being here, first fret of the E string. That's an F. Where's the C on that string? So I would take this. I know C is at the 8th fret. Now I have a C chord, and then I make the same move, and I get the C / D, pulls us back to the G. But that's kind of far away, right? If I'm playing in this position, how else could I do it? So let's try and find a version that's closer to this G chord, okay? So we know we need a C chord. My closest C chord to this, if I'm playing bar chords, is straight across like this. Now I need C / D, so I need for that bottom note to technically turn into a D. It's actually right here, so technically I could just go. And I really want to just play the inside 4 strings, A through B, and get back to that. That's going to sound really good. That might be a little clashy. You get those 2 notes together. You could mute that one out, and you could do something like this, where you're just playing the A, G, and B strings. I think that sounds a little bit cleaner. And back to the G. Or if you want to go one step further, you could take that same shape, but then add the high G note on the E string like this, and then land yourself back on that G chord. I think that one sounds really good. Now you've got 2 places where you could take that chord, F / G or 4 / 5, and really put it into practice. If you made it this far, you're probably a John Mayer nerd like me, and if that's the case, you probably want to check out this video I made last year when he released the PRS SE. They did that ad campaign where they had a whole bunch of awesome guitar players playing on Wild Blue like Ariel Posen, Lindsay L, and Eric Krasno. I took that entire song and I broke it down note for note to show you guys exactly what's going on and how everything functions. It's incredibly nerdy. It's a little bit long, but if you liked this, you're gonna like that. As always, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention in such a noisy world, and I'll see you next time.